welcome to the show today. Today I have Christoph Hartgens on the show, and he's a fintech specialist, a transformation leader. He's been working for many different banks, formerly also Julius Baer, and very excited to talk to you about a little bit of your journey, talk to you a little bit about your perspective on digital, on transformations, on leadership. I really enjoyed the conversation we had a couple of week ago. And yeah, I just want to dive a lot more into these topics. So thanks for being here, Christoph. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for being invited.
Yeah, so let's dive right into your story. Tell us a little bit more about who's Christoph and what sort of the journey that you were on the past many years, and what brought you to where we are today.
I think what describes me best is I'm always excited about anything what's new, what's different, what's something what nobody did until now. I always had the chance that I got jobs and projects where I was leading by hazard. It was just the right place, being at the right place at the right time, not being much, how you call it, educated in different stuffs. But I was always excited about the new and how could we do it and how could we deliver it. It was never about being good in PowerPoints or in describing or in making proposal or strategy, but really about delivering. Can we deliver this? Can we do it really? And this stays since 30 years now, and I'm still excited doing this, and got still invited in a lot of meetings where people have ideas nobody did until now, and everybody says, hey, you cannot do that. That's too complicated. That's too expensive. That's nothing the market is looking for, and that's what I like most, I guess.
I love that description, especially in the world of banking, very, very much. So
it becomes even more difficult in the world of banking, because banking is very traditional. It's not always the most flexible part. And if you come with new approaches, with new ideas, it needs a lot of discussions on all levels, especially also to convince senior management and all the people in the project teams then as well to join your journey and to really believe that we are able to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The one thing I really want to ask you as well is, can you remember over the past years or throughout your journey, where was like a defining moment for you that you feel really shaped you as a human being, that really shaped you as a leader along the way?
I guess it's always the same moment in a project, the moment where people start trusting in what you're saying, that they see and feel that you're honest, that you're straight, that you yourself believe in what you're saying, that you go the way with them, not a separate agenda. And I think it was really some moments in my past journey where I was working 25, 30 years ago at Credit Suisse, where I had always bankers, old-fashioned bankers, who trusted in me, in myself, when I only was 22, 25, and they said, hey, let's do it. You're able to do it. And they gave me the trust, they gave me the power, and I was always the youngest. I was not the guy with the biggest title on the visit card, and I think this stayed with me. I mean, I was really very much excited how at that time Ozzy Grubel worked and how Ozzy Grubel formed also myself, and he was a tough manager for me, but he always supported me, and also this shaped what I did and how I work today.
I love that moment of trust. It's really interesting because I do believe it's almost like a tipping point for a lot of things. Like once people trust, or once either in you, in the cause, in the mission, or whatever it is, something tips, there's like a momentum that tips, and so like a lot of good things start to happen.
It's not within the first 5 minutes. So it sometimes needs a couple of meetings and a couple of deliveries until the last one sees, oh, okay, they really want to do that. So I better join now. I better jump on the boat as well and follow them.
Absolutely. So one thing I want to dive into now as part of this conversation is this topic of human-centered innovation. And what I mean by that is basically human in the middle, basically the human in the center of innovation, of transformation, of change, whatever you want to call it. So first of all, like what's your point of view on this topic of human-centered innovation?
I mean, to be very honest, when I started, it was the functionality. It was something which was exciting. It was a new trading tool, a new algorithm, a new screen layout. I don't know what it was, but it excited me. And I jumped in and we wanted to deliver. We never cared about who is using it, but it was exciting. And all of a sudden we delivered something and I had to use it myself. And I said, hey, shit, everything at the wrong place. So it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I started really very, very early, and long time before human-centric development was a topic, but we always invited the people who are using the tool, the delivery afterwards. And without doing that, you're not going to deliver, and you will not get the buy-in of the people who work afterwards, who use afterwards the product you deliver. So get them on the boat, make them feel that it's their product. I'm not delivering it for myself, so I'm always delivering for somebody else. And some tools are easier. I mean, some tools excite the people who get it, but a lot of deliverables are change. And the change is more than a product or a new tool or a new app on a phone. And as soon as you got the change management part with it, you better be human-centric. You better be in the middle of what's going on and listen carefully to what they are saying, what bothers them much, what is not working correctly in the past. And then you get a better tool and you get a buy-in from the people who needs to work afterwards in the new process, with the new tool, with the new environment as well. And a lot of project is much more than just deliverables of IT developments. So therefore, it means a lot to me.
That's really, I mean, I love that perspective, and thanks for sharing as well that, you know, in the beginning, it was about, you know, something else than thinking about who's going to use it. Because it's, you know, because sometimes
it's a full tech gadget, so that's what excited me first, but it doesn't work like that. I logged my Excel sheets, and then I sent my Excel sheets to my colleagues, and nobody found out how to work with it, but it did the right thing and it calculated the right numbers, but yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Because sometimes we humans, I think, can be very quick to jump to the solution, because, you know, it's exciting to talk about the solution. It's exciting to jump right to the end sometimes, but it's probably not always the right approach. So another question that I have in this whole topic of human-centered innovation is like, you know, there's different stakeholders, right? And to me, the human is also the business. You know, to me, the human is the user, the customer, the employee, but also the business in a sense, like the business perspective of the organization. The shareholder is also a human being at the end of the day, actually. So to me, the human is very broad. That's why I call it human and not user and not customer and not employee. Talk to me about stakeholder management in terms of like, Usually, often I feel like in projects or programs or transformations, there's a variety of stakeholders, not always with the same agenda, not always with the same needs, not always with the same goals. So how do you deal with that, and how do you find common ground? Even I mean, maybe if there is any, like how do you find common ground?
I think, as you mentioned it, there are different stakeholders, and for different stakeholders, there's not a common ground for me. So it's definitely a difference if you talk to the CFO or the board member or the IT head of IT deliverable. And what I see is really you need first to be convinced yourself that you're doing the right thing, then to convince the board members, and first to get buy-in from some colleagues around you who support yourself through the process of getting the budget. But even if you have the budget and if you have convinced senior management and the board level, it's still not where you need to be. That's just the buy-in of senior management, and this doesn't help to deliver at the beginning. It helps to get the budget, but then it already stops. And if you think about the processes within a project, you will see that a lot of projects costs are before you deliver anything. Just in meeting, in describing what you want to do, in making all the paper stuff. And it needs that time. It needs the meetings to be human-centric. It needs the workshops with your colleagues. It needs that time. And we had a lot of discussion about how the costs should be split among the life cycle of a project. And we always saw that it is between 15 and 30% of costs is before you have finally described what you want to do. And that's a lot. It's a lot. So make it cheaper. So, because this is the part where we cannot activate what we have invested. We can activate the product at the end, but the period, the phase before the deliverable, it's not in our balance sheet and cannot be activated. So shorten that time, reduce the cost. And I say that's bullshit. You lose too much if you do that. You lose too much. You will have all kind of ideas afterwards in the project. They start changing the scope, they start changing the timeline, and at the end, it collapses because of the budget. So take your time in really going through the process and describing the scope correctly, that everybody is on the same page and knows what we want to do. It's a bit different if you're running an agile project. You have shorter moments than in waterfall projects, but at the end it needs the time on both styles of project management. But to be honest, I'm not sure that you get always all the people on the same page, and you have to convince them from separate angles, and always ask yourself what's in it for them. Not what's in it for the client or for myself, but what's in it for the guy who helps you in the project, who is financing it, who is doing the project office, who is doing the tech part, who is doing the architecture, the marketing, whatever it is. What is in it for him? And if you do that, I think you will get the buy-in. You will see that they start thinking about the project and they start delivering as well solutions and idea how we could solve the problems and the topic. But that's for everybody. It's a bit different and it's a different angle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that very much because it once again just shows that it's the individual in the center, and it's not about the message in the center, but it's about the individual in the center. And the message may be completely custom and different for every individual, every stakeholder, every individual within
it's
the
individual and the role he is in. I mean, he could be the nicest guy drinking a beer with him, but in his role as guard of the budget or whoever, he he needs to think different. So think about his role, think about how could I help him that he understands what we try to do, and let him help yourself as well. So these are not frontiers, these are all little helpers. When you get them on board, then you're much faster, and it helps.
I love that. Not another topic, but a little bit deeper, maybe I wanted to talk about success and failure of transformations. And transformations, we can pick anything. We can pick corporate ventures, we can pick, digital product launches, whatever you want to pick, basically. But I'd love to hear from you a little bit more on your experience. What, if there is anything specific, but what usually leads transformations to either succeed or fail? Are there certain principles? Are there certain best practices, certain lessons? I know there's no manual, that's clear, but...
No, that's no manual. That's definitely true. No, I mean, usually what I see a lot is there are always big plans. We fly to the moon, we do something very exciting. But at the end, start with small steps and get them on board and deliver what you're saying, step by step by step. Have the big vision, the big idea in the back. Talk with the small group of people about the big vision, but deliver the short steps every day. If you're talking about corporate ventures, that's difficult. That's really something which is difficult, because it's creating a separate culture within the same company very often. And the people in this corporate venture start thinking different, but are still in the same corset as everybody else as well. And this hurts a lot. So you give them somehow a green field where they can do whatever they want to do, but at the end, they're still part of your company and the DNA of your company. And as long you cannot cut this and really give them their own DNA, it will not work. We had a lot of experience, and some failed, some went very, very well. But at the end, it's really about the trust, and also the senior management who has to be convinced that they have now in this corporate venture a different role, and they are allowed to approach the topic differently, to solve it differently, to not always think about how could we solve this with the legacy system and process we have anyway, but really think out of the box. This is one part. Get the buy-in from the senior management, deliver small steps that senior management sees, that also with a different style of approach, with different solutions, even outside of the same company, something good comes out. And at the end, it's definitely the financing of corporate startups. It's always about budget. If you're in a bigger company, we'll see, even if it's only 100K or 500,000, you're gonna fight for these budgets, and you fight against traditional projects within the company, even if you're a corporate venture. So there's no free lunch. There's not the money which lays around and is there and you can use for whatever you want. So you always have to convince the people, and also and ask yourself as well, is it the right project? Is it the right step to invest? So think about where you want to go, think about the next step, and reflect yourself really. Is the money I want to spend the next 2 weeks, the next 2 months, spend it the right way? Is the right step we are doing right now? And this has to be done every couple of weeks. And this is something which hurts. Waterfall is easier on that side. If you want, so you can say, okay, I had my fight for the budget. everything is funded. Now 18 months down in the cellar, and then we come up and deliver. Oh, oops, world has changed. Wrong product. No, I think venture corporate startups can deliver much more if you have the right approach which fits to your DNA, and you accept that your DNA changes as well of your company. And somehow you need also to want to have this change within your company. If not, then it's just another project which has its own rules at the side. But it's never going to get a real corporate or a real own solution.
I love that, because what comes up to me in this is this need for constant communication. And I don't say regular communication like for a reason, because I don't think it's regular. I think it's actually absolutely constant. It's not only communication in that sense, but it's this alignment. It's like this reaffirmation of, oh, this was the right decision. And then next week again, oh, this was the right decision. Oh, this was the right decision. Because, it's just not like that, right? You get the budget and 18 months later, there's a check-in.
I mean, it's all about also the coffee talks. It's not regular meetings, Monday, 8 o'clock, half an hour. That's not what I'm talking about. It's really about sitting together, reflecting, listening as well, what happens within the project, within the corporate venture. And you all of a sudden feel that the people, we had the topic where we took out people of the company in a corporate venture. And they really had an objective, a focus on a solution where we thought that's going to be tough. So using bank data, client bank and transaction data outside of the bank environment in a own IT infrastructure. That's already, even if you do not know what they want to do with the data, and they want to do some artificial intelligence and to find out some behavior of the clients, but only this step to get the data, to really work with real data, to find a solution for an end client of the bank. All these security aspects, all this paperwork before we even started took more time than the whole project. So we had more than 9 months of fighting internal to get it done. So it needs, in Switzerland we say you're a little teleboy. You always have to stand up and fight for it again and again and again. And I mean, it was really something. I was proud at the end that they were able to deliver it. It was not me. It was really them. They were fighting for it. They were convinced that they will get it, that they find the solution. But there it needed a lot of talks and meetings and conviction to really do the right thing. At the end, to do the stuff, to really work with the data, to create a tool, to set the alerts, to send them afterwards to the relationship manager, and the relationship manager all of a sudden gets an email, ooh, your client is at risk. We found this, and this indication. Everybody was excited all of a sudden. And some weren't excited, so because every relationship manager thinks, I know my client best. But it was good, but it was a long, long time at the beginning, and a lot of costs prior to the project, which needed to be financed as well, because the people were there. They were not working on other projects at that time. They were really fighting for what they want to do. And this is something you should be aware of, that it needs a long breath.
Yeah, it's a good expectation to get started with. Because if you think it's going to take a long breath and it's going to take a little bit less longer, you're actually quite happy.
Most of them expect, oh, now I can work in shorts and t-shirt and at the beach with my laptop and can work like that. Nope, that's not the case.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I want to dive into, which is like when you, when you come in, let's say as a chief digital officer or whatever fancy title you want to throw at the wall, but I basically mean somebody who's been mandated with leading a certain aspect of a transformation, not managing it, but not pushing it through, but just basically, setting up an organization that allows the company to become a bit more future ready. Maybe that's the right way of looking at it. What do you do? Like when you get started, like what do the first 3 months look like when you start? What actually happens? Like,
let me start before that. I mean, I was asked to become CDO. And I said, okay, Chief Data Officer, you mean, huh? No, Chief Digital Officer. But I said, but that's not our problem. The problem we have in our bank is data. We should care about data. No, but we want to give the signal as well to the shareholders, to the employees, to the company, that we transform, that we go in a new direction. And we want to empower you to do that. And I was thinking a long time about, shall I do that job or not? Because for me, it was clear. As soon as you have a chief digital officer, expectations swap. They jump up high. Everything thinks you have all the budgets. Everybody thinks you have all the power. You can do whatever you want, and you will do it in 2 weeks. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So it's a lot about changing expectations on all levels. And this is difficult. I mean, we had clear focus on 2-3 major projects, roadmaps. So we were not financed. Already at that time, we did not finance pure projects, but we were financing a roadmap, a journey. So the client journey of the future, as an example, or a relationship manager roadmap. So this was already different, and people knew how we want to work in the future. But at the end, the financing, the fight within the projects, they do not change. And to be very honest, I'm not sure that a CDO and somebody who has just the title of a chief digital officer helps you in any way. It changes the expectation. It changes also the behavior within budgeting meetings. And I would recommend to reflect before you install a CDO, or even think, no, we're not doing it. We're defining the roadmaps, the journeys we want to invest, and then name the one who is the one who leads this journey and has the finance as well. But just to have somebody new with a title in the company, it's not enough. It's just not enough. It was tough at the beginning because, as I said, it was starting in, I'm not sure, but I think I started as chief digital officer in August, and as of September, the budgeting round for next year starts. And everybody thinks then, now this guy, he has all the budget and we do not get anything. So you can imagine how the discussions were.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. And, I love that output a lot more than discussing the first 3 months, because it actually has a lot to do with, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it has a lot to do with expectation management. And one thing is, if you bring somebody on board to do a certain job, to have a certain mission, basically, I think not only slapping that person with a title is important. I think it's also important to actually create the environment for that person to be successful in their role, because it's very tricky if if the intentions are not clean. You know what I mean? If the intention of bringing on board a CDO are not clean, what I mean by that is if the number one intention is actually transform the organization to a more future-proof company that is completely customer-centric, well, that makes a lot of sense. But and whatever title you give that person, that I'm not, there's so many. There's too many. What I mean is basically like it's a lot more important to actually have a clear intention. That's one thing, and set the expectations well for the person, for the organization. And once again, I go back to communication, right? Talking about why we're doing that, talking about why we're bringing somebody like this on board, talking about, also how they're set up, and maybe talk about, these things like, talking about how it is and how it is not, like how it is, and no, that person's not going to have all the power, it's not going to have all the budgets, and here's why, and here's what this person's supposed to be doing, and how they fit into the organization, and what their role really is. I'm a big believer that there is no over communication. There's almost always under communication, right?
I mean, what I see is, and I made a lot of projects also outside of banks and with startups, but very often we see that the vision or the strategy is written somewhere and classed somewhere and stored and forgotten. And if you talk then to your boss and say, okay, you want to appoint me as a CDO, what is our vision? What is the strategy? Where do we want to go? What are the topics we invest? And who takes the leadership? What is our lighthouse what we can implant there? And you all of a sudden realize, oops, vision, not really everybody on the same page. Strategy, definitely not. Every department or environment has a different view on the same strategy, and you have to align them. And this goes from top to bottom. Afterwards, if they are aligned and if you have your lighthouse, it becomes easier. Then you have shown that you can deliver. Then they see where you want to go, what direction. But at the beginning, it really starts about having a company vision, having a company strategy, to know what roadmaps comes first, what are the lighthouse, how do we communicate along this journey all the time on different levels. And it should not always be the CEO who communicates. Let the people who get the solution talk about it. This can be a client, this can be a back office guy, this can be a manager, can be, you name it. But let them talk about what they got and how we help them. And then you get the buy-in, and then the momentum comes, and then it will also be easier to go through the process from budget to delivery.
I love that, because what just came up was this very simple distinction that actually communication is not just about giving answers. Communication is also a lot about asking questions. So,
you're right.
Like, there's one last question I want to ask you, which is a little bit more personal, a little bit more into the future. So let's imagine you're 80 years old now, and you're sitting in your rocking chair, looking out, of your window or on your terrace. You got the beautiful mountain view and the snow there, and you're looking back at, the past many years of how the world has changed. At that point in that time of the future, what's the change that you would want to see?
Sitting in a rocking chair and saying, okay, great that we did that. I'm not sure. I think it's really about the humans, the people involved in projects. It's less about something specific that the world is changing, but the behavior, how we work within big organizations. That hierarchy is definitely gone, that young people with good ideas, even if they're only 18 or 20, get the moment and get their voice raised and heard as well from management, and that they have a part in the big picture. And we see a lot that we think in senior management that we know what the client or what the business or what the operations want to do. We have an idea, but we never talked with them. And we invited the executive level, so the directors, the managing directors, and asked them, no, don't do that. Go lower. Ask really the guy who is doing it, who is working every day with it, involve them and get them a voice. And if that happens, if really this transformation with no hierarchy, with getting projects and ideas from all sides, how to develop a better future, and then to funnel it in a proper way to a solution where we can deliver, this would help. Because I really think it's about people. It's not about a technology which I could not imagine what is missing, but it's about our behavior within companies. I had a tough life, and I really remember when I was 22, 23, and I was installed at that time at Credit Suisse to lead a big project on the trading department. It was a really big project with big numbers of funding, and I was the youngest guy, no title, no procurist or anything, and everybody said, why should we listen to him? Because I had the most experience. I was the youngest, but I was the guy who was trading this stuff, and I had the experience. And I had a boss, and that was became at that time then also Ozzy Griebel, who said, hey, listen to him. Here's the guy who will work with it. He needs to make money afterwards. So you better listen to him and follow him. And I think this was really something I learned from my past, that also young people have good ideas and good solutions, and make a good mixture of your project team through all ages, through all management levels, and really listen to the people.
I love that. I love that last part. Just like, I love finishing it off with just listen to the people, listen to your people. Thank you so much, Christoph, for being here.
You're welcome. It was a great pleasure.
Your experiences, and yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, Christoph.
Thanks.